Fundamental human rights and freedoms. Origin: Human Rights, Bill of Rights of England and USA. Freedoms: the Great French Revolution in France. The fundamental human rights is the right of life and its protection. Other rights are derived from this. Protection of human rights. An integral part of developed democratic countries where fundamental human rights and freedoms may differ in terms of origins. Natural laws arise from the birth of a person. Positive law rights are created by the designed state. Scope: determined by the Constitution and laws. Constitution: the highest law regulation. Change may occur less frequently, they may be less specific. Laws: lower law regulation. Change may occur more often, may be more specific. And application: theory and praxis. Theory: how could it be? Practice: how it really fulfills. Individual and collective rights. In general, the state ensures individual and collective rights. Which is individual and collective? Individual rights are the right of life, right to the education, the right to privacy and family life, etc. But collective rights are the right of association, the right of religion, the other rights to the nation, minorities, ethnic groups. But the individual rights is rights to education. But in minority, the education is collective. It depends on formulation. The limitation of human rights. There are constraints made by the states that are necessary in a democratic society and protect the public interest. Restriction on public interest. Restriction: activities necessary for the proper functioning of the state system, which cannot otherwise be ensured only by restriction of human rights, security, defense, protection, public order, crisis management, etc. Public interest: ensuring the protection of human rights and existence of the state whose protection is ensured, justice, truth, equality, equal opportunities, etc. Principles of human rights limitation. In the case law of the European Court of Human Rights, there are principles that should strike a balance between rights and obligation. These principles are proportionality: the restriction must be proportionate to the objective to be met. Necessity: the absence of any alternative that can solve the problem without limiting any right. Legality: the restriction is carried out exclusively within the scope of the legal law regulation options. Predictability: restriction should be applied equally in the same matter indifferently in different matters. Stability and non-retroactive. Development of the protection of human rights. Dates from the establishment of the first Czechoslovak Republic to the present. Distinct periods within regard to the extent of rights of minorities and ethnic groups in Czechoslovakia. In 1918 to 1938, defined and secured by the state. The first Czechoslovakia has a very good opportunity for other states of Europe. We are the first state who has the equal rights, men and women. It's very specific. In 1948 to 1989, defined but not secured by the state, we are in communistic states. We have much more rights, but in practicing is not so good. In 1993, Slovak Republic defend and state guarantees rights. The real scope of rights and obligation. Non-territorial autonomy network, which may be formed in the territory of the Slovak Republic, has the rights definitely exercised by the Constitution on the Slovak Republic, laws, legal definitions. It's good, but it depends. The system of law, authority, enforcement, courts, police, prosecutors, etc. And the last and very often things, the awareness of society, public pressure, government, parliament. The behavior of society governed by law, created by the state and the population. creates an environment in which human rights are applied. Majority clashes with minority arise from misunderstanding of difference and unwillingness to deal with them. The feeling that someone has more responsibilities and fewer rights than another and vice versa. The idea that another person wants to hurt someone and nothing prevents him from doing it. The experience that state systems set up don't work as they should. In a few months ago, we will see in Slovakia, the young journalist with his friends was killed. This is very bad for Slovakia. What shall we do? Creating an environment for cognition, understanding, acceptance, tolerance. Rights should be accepted by the giving state not only at the level of international organization, United Nations, European Union, etc., but also by the people themselves, predominantly indigenous people. I am a teacher. Many times I ask my students, what is rights? What is obligation? You mean it's good that the minority has some rights, some special rights than a majority? In these days, some of my students says, you don't need to teach minority his rights. This is problem for majority. No. And I ask, what? Why? What is the problem that the minority know his rights? Why? Possible of preventing and solving clashes. The emergency non-territorial autonomy network should not incite riots emerging from radicalism, dissatisfaction with the distribution between rights and obligation, fear, changing in traditional values, freedom, equality, etc. among the indigenous people. Possibility of preventing and solving clashes. The previous must be ensured by the state, which should adequately strike the balance between the rights and obligation of the people belonging to non-territorial autonomy network, but not at the expense of neither indigenous population nor the members of the non-territorial autonomy network. It cannot come to suffering of the people only because the European Union countries don't recognize the historical values, example Gracia, unity in diversity. For my opinion, in the world we haven't enough places, states, to have every nation, culture, religion, his own states. Thank you for your attention.